Hey, fitness visionaries, welcome to the Fit Powerfully podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Fisher. This space is for studio owners and managers who want to lead with clarity, elevate their culture, and protect their own wellness while running studios that sustainably thrive. Each week, we talk about the leadership, communication, strategy, and personal well being that keeps your studio steady and keeps you energized in the work you love. If you're here to lead boldly, operate intentionally, and feel good while building something that lasts, you are in the right place. Let's dive into today's conversation. Okay, I have had enough of this little instructor pool issue lately, and I'm going to give you three different scenarios of why this has really gotten to a point where I'm not only shocked, I don't understand it, and I just think that this shouldn't even be a thing. Like, I should not even be talking about it. All right, so the first situation, I run into a member I hadn't seen since before COVID, one of my favorites that were in class. And we were just talking about how she hadn't worked out in a while. And then she just loved and remembered all of the fun classes that used to really challenge her. And she had loved coming to my classes. She loved coming to some of the other classes that had truly amazing instructors because believe you me, they were some of my favorites too. And then she had gone back to the gym and she said, well, what happened? She showed up. Half of the classes weren't even on the schedule. She couldn't even figure out what the classes were because the names did not match with the classes. And she was like, well, even when I looked, all of the names were gone. And I tried the classes, but it wasn't the same. I didn't even get a good workout. So luckily, I was like on a 2-week pass and I just decided not to join back. So, that hurt my heart. Then the next thing that happened was, and this was like the next week later, that someone had come to my class and then they left, but they were like, that was just crazy. It was fun. Haven't been to a class like this in a long time. I'm going to have to come back when I get to that level. But I'm going to tell my friend about you because my friend said that there's no way that you can get fit in these classes anymore. You can't get a good workout in a class. So I'm going to tell her to go to your class. Sure enough, the person comes in my class. Like, I didn't know that this is the friend when they were in there and we were just talking and they were working out. And if you've ever been to one of my classes, we are going for it. We're going to have a lot of fun. I got a lot of craziness going on. We'll have a double dutch rope. We'll have beach balls. We'll have jump ropes, hula hoops. I got pom poms for the dance class. I do not play around. Like, we are going to have some fun in my class. We're going to work out. We're going to do bear crawls. We're going to do push up jacks. We're going to do pistol squats. And we're also going to do our regular basics. We got some bicep curls in. I got my abs, everything that you would normally, do in a class, but we're going to have an experience because that's the way I learned how to teach, right? So then this woman, she was like, yeah, my friend sent me into the class and I see what she was saying. That was how you're supposed to do it. I could see, that really challenged me. And I'm like, yeah, but I know it was challenging, but did you have fun? Because you look like you could hang the whole time and everything was good. And she was like, yes, regardless of what was going on, like it was so much fun, or that it was a challenge that I have really been wanting for a while. And I'm like, I'm so glad you enjoyed yourself. That's what it's all about. And it just made me think about this too, because I was talking to someone else about working out, and we were talking about, well, those instructors that are your favorite instructors now tend to be a lot older. And that reminded me of when I started out, that the instructors that, they were around a while and everything. You're like, oh my God, I really want that 6 p.m. slot, but this is such and such class. And evidently they had it for the last 15 years. So, and they were like 40 or 50. So when you're starting out in your 20s and things, you're like, oh my God, this lady is like 1,000 years old. Why is she still teaching? She needs to move. Like her music is all back in the day. It's not what's going on and everything like that. Not the fact that she's still killing the class and doing everything, right? But this was back in the day, 20 some years ago, right? So I remember there being so much competition when you first started out trying to be an instructor. Like you really had to know at least three formats to even consider getting an audition, let alone getting a position in a gym. Like the audition, you weren't auditioning for one thing, okay? You had to come in and audition for at least three things. And I don't know if you all remember, I started out and I had the AFA certification, and you actually had to show up physically and they would call out certain muscle groups and you had to show an exercise in that muscle group in order for you to get your certification. All right. What's going on now? Everything is online, right? You pick C and you probably pass. It's really crazy. But going back to like when I started out and there being so much competition, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'll never get that 6 p.m. slide. Like, you just really hoped that another gym opened up. You can forget another, the class time opening up, or the person was just like, you know what, I'm going to retire. I don't want to be there at 6 o'clock. I only want to do morning classes. Or heaven forbid, I'm going to tell you how I ended up doing a lot of stuff. A few of the instructors got pregnant, so they needed someone, and that's how I got in. So either you needed to retire or you needed to be pregnant, and then you still had to move when those instructors came back that were pregnant, right? But I look at it now because, now I'm one of those instructors that's 40 to 50 in the 50s. Let's tell the truth here. And I'm that seasoned instructor, and I should be worried that I'm about to lose my good time slots. But am I worried? Not at all. Matter of fact, I am tired. Well, I kind of love it, so I'm not truly tired, but I am teaching still 10 classes a week, which is crazy. There is no reason for somebody to be teaching 10 classes a week. Technically, at my age, you could, but I mean, there should be so much competition that that's not an option. But there is no competition. No one is vying for my prime time spot. No one is vying for the type of classes that I'm teaching. They don't want to teach cycle. They don't want to teach boot camp. I'm teaching sports conditioning. They don't even want to teach Pilates. Heaven forbid, all of the crazy stuff that I do that the younger instructors should be well more versed in and wanting and doing. There's no competition. And those who are teaching the boot camps, those strong cycle classes, those super hit classes, those strength classes, not the toning classes, the strength classes. Those ones who, we got that body pump and all of that. We're talking about putting some weight on that barbell, having some weight in our hands, being able to only work through strength, but also endurance. We got power, strength. We're working functional. We're working on that balance. Guess what? No competition. No one is trying to push me out of my spot. And the sad part about it is that the instructors can't, because they don't even have the certifications anymore. They haven't bothered to do that. And if that's not so bad, they don't even have the desire to go above and beyond or find out how to teach another format. And on top of that, they're not even challenged to do so. Like, the gyms, some of the studios, they're like, okay, this is fine what you do. You don't have to learn anything else. What in the world? What has become of that super, not the celebrity fitness instructor? You're always going to get that no matter what, right? It's always going to be a favorite, but that one that can fill in, do everything, enjoy it, just bring the amazingness, be amazing, and really change lives of our members in more than one format. Look, when I give a class, I am all in. I think about the member in the way of like, how are we going to make this beneficial to them, right? But what do you do as a boutique fitness studio owner when you're looking for talent that matches your culture and extraordinary experience? Because the pool is very shallow right now, and it didn't used to be. And I don't think that the industry is being honest enough about this, right? The instructor problem is real. And it's really the boutique studio owners that are the ones paying for it, not the big box ones. And I'll tell you why. Here's what's happening. The pipeline that I was talking about, right? That pipeline that used to produce these well-rounded, multi-format, deeply trained group fitness professionals has narrowed significantly. Again, like I told you, when I started teaching, you were expected to know at least 3 formats across different modalities before you could even expect consistent work. You could sub, but you weren't getting a regular position. You needed to know strength and cardio, mind, body, and high intensity. Something that would challenge a beginner and something that could push a seasoned athlete. You had to be versatile because the studios required it. And the studios required it because their members demanded it. I am so disheartened because that standard largely does not exist anymore. And I don't want to hear about COVID. We're going to talk about that, but I don't want to hear that it was COVID. Okay. It started a little bit before COVID, and COVID became the excuse. What replaced that standard of versatility and excellence? What replaced it is a culture of specialty first, platform first, and sometimes personality first credentialing, where an instructor can build a following around a single format and market themselves as an expert without the foundational breadth that actually protects your clients and elevates your studio floor. The fitness job market is growing fast, with trainer and instructor roles having been projected to grow 14% between 2023 and 2033, which is far outpacing the average across all occupations. So it's a wonderful career to get into, especially if you love fitness, because it is very much growing. You know how much health and wellness is becoming a large part of people's lives. It's a multi billion dollar, trillion dollar industry, right? So more instructors entering the market, however, is not the same thing as more quality instructors entering the market. Those are two different things, and the industry conflates them constantly, right? And again, I just talked about it. It's very much worth saying the pandemic did something to the instructor pipeline that we are still untangling, right? When studios closed, instructors pivoted to online. And then some left the industry entirely. And then when the studios reopened, the hiring pressure was intense, right? You're just trying to figure out the pool then was very small. Like people were like, no, I'm just not going back. It was so much already going on before that that sort of started to shift things. And then with the pandemic happening, and then people who, and I was one of them, like at that point, yes, we know I'm an attorney, but I was a regional fitness manager at that point. My full time job was being the fitness manager and being a fitness instructor. And there was so much going on that a lot of people, their only job was being a fitness instructor. So we're talking about when the pandemic hit, you lost your sole means of income and you really couldn't get it back at the level you were enjoying before the pandemic. Again, some people went to teaching online, but even that took a little bit of time to start back up because, people were uncertain. A lot was going on and just learning the technology to teach and then for people to understand how to take a class online, it was just a lot. It wasn't that long ago, but when you think about it, when it first started out, no one really knew how to adjust to taking or teaching online as the only way at that point, right? So again, when studios reopened, like I said, the hiring pressure was super, super intense. So standards that might have filtered someone out in a normal hiring cycle got quietly relaxed. Studios, gyms, they needed bodies. And they needed bodies in front of classes. For those who wanted to come back, it was like if that person wanted to come back, we need to grab them. And some of those bodies were fantastic, right? Some of them had been teaching for years, so they came back. But there were many that were new. And many of those that were new were not fully prepared for the complexity of live group fitness instruction. And because studios and gyms were so relieved to have anyone at all, the bar stayed lower than it should have. And I'm going to tell you, it stayed lower than it should have for a long time, and that's still happening. At the end of 2023, a staggering statistic was released. 91.2% of boutique fitness studios were not sustainably profitable. And that number carried into 2024. So hear me out. There are a lot of factors driving that reality. But when your studio's signature experience lives or dies on what happens in the room during class, and the person in front of the room is giving your members a fraction of what they came for, that is not a small, minute thing or issue. Listen to me. 37% of millennials and Gen Z list the quality of the instructor as their top reason for attending a class. Quality is not just an intangible feel-good metric, okay? It's a retention driver, and retention is the whole game in boutique fitness. I want you to think about it like this. The instructor in your studio is not just filling a time slot. They are actively shaping whether your members come back next week and whether they tell 3 people about your studio or they quietly cancel their membership. Instructor quality is a business asset, and you should hire and evaluate it like one. Okay? That's what I want you to think about. Now, going back again to where the pipeline actually broke. And I have a theory, being one who works in big box and who owned a boutique fitness studio and who also continues to go to boutique fitness studios. To understand how we got here, You have to understand what used to happen before an instructor walked into a boutique fitness studio. Big box gyms, whatever their other limitations, they used to serve as a real function in the fitness industry, right? Particularly, they were where instructors cut their teeth. The volume of classes, the variety of formats required, the constant exposure to every possible kind of participant, from the beginner who had never done a push up, the 40-year veteran who could outcondition most people half their age, the person rehabbing a shoulder, the person who hadn't exercised in a decade and came in terrified. Teaching in a big box environment across multiple formats built the kind of breadth and adaptability that boutique fitness studios could recruit from. The best ones got poached, as they should have. That was the pipeline. That pipeline is largely broken now, and the big box side of the equation contributed significantly to breaking it. I said what I said. As large gyms pushed to compete on price, group fitness classes became a bundled amenity, right? No one cared about your little group fitness classes. They were trying to get dollar amounts for every member that came in. And because fitness classes are free, what does that mean? Anything that is included in a $25 a month membership rather than a signature experience worth paying for separately, yeah, that wasn't going to get the attention. So when classes become an add-on rather than a value driver, the investment in the instructor delivering them follows that same logic. Pay compresses, class sizes balloon. The expectation that an instructor should know multiple formats at a meaningful level quietly disappears, because in a high volume, low price model, you need coverage more than you need mastery. Hate to say it, but that is now the reality of the big box, right? It's coverage, not mastery. Not saying that for all of them, but I'm going to say that's a little bit of how things are going right now. All right. So, what replaced the rigorous multi format standard in many big box environments was a lower bar that prioritized availability and format specific certification over genuine breadth. That's why you have so many classes of a certain nature where everyone is dancing around, but you can't find anyone to show someone how to do a lunge or a bicep curl. Again, I said what I said. So what happens? That result from the big box talent pool trickled down in the most literal sense. The instructors coming out of that system and eventually looking for boutique work, well, they arrived with narrower training. They had less live room experience across diverse populations, and sometimes a professional formation shaped more by volume than by standard. Boutiques that once hoped to recruit from the deep end of the big box talent pool found that that pool had gotten considerably shallower. But now that dynamic has flipped entirely. Big box gyms, having watched boutique fitness grow 400% over the last decade, while their own traditional membership numbers declined, are now trying to bolt boutique experiences onto their existing model, right? You know how it is. You're seeing everyone add in the reformer and what is it? Hot studios. So like Crunch is adding hot studios and boutique style formats under its Crunch 3.0 concept. LA Fitness has launched Club Studio, where they're offering 6 boutique class modalities under one roof. And they're starting, even in their general LA Fitness studios, to offer reformer Pilates. The Edge Fitness Club is rolling out reformer Pilates and small group strength sessions and infrared yoga across its locations. Vasa's boutique style class, their pilot has over 1,500 waitlisted sessions, I've heard. So the message from the industry is clear. The big box chains recognize that what boutique studios do is worth replicating, and they are investing to do it at their price point. Okay? But we all do remember this not too long ago, right before the pandemic. I will talk about this another day, but remember when it was all group training, the HIT group training and everything like that? You had the Orange Theories and the F-45s, and then all of the big boxes decided that they were going to add those into their facilities. And now if you go into those big boxes, you don't see that anymore, do you? That's what's going on with the reformer Pilates, but let's just let everybody have their moment and we'll talk about that later. Right now, we're going to concentrate again on my little soapbox about what is happening to my instructor pool and what you as a boutique studio owner can do and what you need to watch out for. Because remember, now the dynamic has flipped. Where are the amazing instructors? Now, here is where it is directly relevant to your studio. The same chains executing that strategy are in the market for instructors who can deliver that experience. And they are not growing their own. They are looking at the talent that boutique studios have spent years finding, developing, and investing in, and dangling more class slots and a free full amenity membership as the pitch to woo them over. The offer sounds appealing on the surface, right? You get more hours, there are more variety of members, you get access to a full facility. But what it almost never includes is what boutique studios actually provide their best instructors. Real investment in their growth, a community that knows their name, and the creative ownership that comes with being genuinely seen as the reason members show up. Boutique studios retain members at rates of 75 to 80% compared to 50 to 60% for big box gyms. That gap does not happen because of equipment or square footage, okay? It happens because of the instructor relationship and the community that forms around it. An instructor who moves from a boutique environment into a big box one is walking into a context where the relationship is structurally harder to build. The class size runs 30 to 50 people. The member base is transient and less committed. And the institutional culture typically does not prioritize the kind of instructor development that makes someone grow into a truly exceptional teacher. And that's why the pool is getting smaller as well, right? The research and the reality both say the same thing. Big box gyms have not been able to consistently replicate the boutique experience, even when they invest in the infrastructure for it. Culture cannot be added as an amenity. I say this all the time. The instructors who genuinely understand what it means to hold a room, build a community, and deliver an experience worth paying a premium for are not more likely to find that work in a large chain. Say what you want, but they really are less likely to. So what does that mean? That means the poaching attempts, for the most part, do not stick with the instructors who are actually your most valuable people, okay? But you have to understand, for the most part, is not the same as never. And protecting your best people requires understanding what actually keeps them, not just hoping their loyalty to your community is enough, because it often isn't, all right? So while you're listening to this, pause it a little bit, but here's a quick action tip for you. And I'll have a little note about it after I give it to you. I want you to pull your last 3 months of class attendance data for each instructor and look for patterns. Consistent drops in a specific instructor's classes are one of the clearest early signals that something may not be working. Do not wait for member complaints. The data will tell you before the members do. Now, what you heard me say was consistent drops in a specific instructor's classes. So one, we're looking at a drop. So don't say, okay, this class right away, it doesn't have any numbers. That's not always the signal you're looking for that has to deal with the instructor. That could be the time, the format, not necessarily the instructor. When we're looking at evaluating an instructor, it has to be based on how the instructor has been performing and has been given the chance to perform. And hopefully you have set them up for success so that when you do evaluate them, and if there's anything negative you see, it is actually coming from the instructor and not the position that they were placed in. So hear me out when I gave you that action tip. It's consistent drops in a specific instructor, so you're only looking at that instructor, their classes. See what's going on, okay? What's happening? And see if it's them or the position you put them in, meaning that you hired them expecting one thing, but you did not have that expectation for them when you hired. Okay? All right. So let's talk a little bit about what real quality actually looks like, right? What does a generally high quality instructor bring to a room? And how do you recognize it when you are hiring? Because again, can't put it on the instructor. You saw what you were getting and you hired anyway. You cannot expect a miracle to come from that if there was no miracle to be seen in it from the beginning. So let's look at a couple things. Presence is the first thing, not likability. I'm talking about presence. The ability to read a room as it's happening and respond to what you're actually seeing, not what you planned, right? A class of 12 people who came in exhausted after a brutal work week needs something different from a class of 12 people who've been stacking energy all morning and they are ready to go for it. You might have to change on the spot. You might have to adjust that workout that you planned last night for 3 hours. Hopefully, in that plan, that instructor left room for adjustments because the instructor who cannot feel that difference and pivot in real time is not serving your members. All they're doing is running a recording. Now, variety is the next layer, and it is where the single format problem shows itself most clearly. All right, that one trick pony. And they may be amazing in that one format, right? That's not what we're talking about here. But I can say that an instructor who only knows one thing will teach that one thing, regardless of whether it is the right thing for the people in front of them. So a client walks in with a knee issue, a client walks in 3 weeks postpartum, A client walks in having never done a group class before. An instructor knows what to do with every single one of those situations without derailing the rest of the class. A specialist who has only ever taught one format in one setting may not. And that's something you have to think about. Now, the third layer is what I'd like to call principled challenge. This is the ability to progressively push people toward results without leaving them behind or injuring them. It requires actual knowledge of exercise science. It requires understanding how the body adapts over time. It requires a genuine interest in your members' outcomes, not just their enjoyment in the moment. A great class should feel good and it should do something. Those are not competing goals. Lastly, the fourth is cultural investment. Your studio has an identity. It has a feeling when you walk in, a community dynamic, a way members talk to each other and to staff. An instructor who does not understand, respect, and actively contribute to that culture is a disruptor, even if their class is technically fine. Culture is not decoration. It is the core of what makes a boutique studio worth choosing over a gym or an app. The instructor has to be a steward of it. Now, how do you actually hire for this, right? Telling you what to look for, but how are you going to hire for this? Well, of course, I hope this is a no-brainer, but you need to audition, people, okay? Please tell me that you are auditioning instructors. You are not taking word of mouth. You are not looking at a video that is grainy that somebody sent you in showing their best. Please tell me that that person is auditioning in front of you, and preferably there are others taking the class as they are auditioning. But even then, the audition class is just a starting point, and it can often be evaluated wrong, right? What do? You'll look at that instructor while they're in that audition, and what you're assessing is whether the instructor is likable, whether they know their cues, and whether the format is clean, right? But that's just evaluating the surface. What you should also be watching for is, does this person move through the room or stay anchored to a spot? Do they notice when someone is struggling and respond to it? Or do they barrel through their plan? Do they create an experience that feels cohesive? Or does the energy drop in the middle and never quite recover? Are they talking at your imaginary class, or are they talking with them? These are the things you look for. And then before the audition, ask about their background before the audition, and ask specifically. Ask them, how many formats have they taught? What does their continuing education look like? Have them tell you about a class that went sideways and how they handled it. What do they do when a client is not getting a cue? And particularly, that last question tells you more than anything else. An instructor who cannot answer it fluently has probably not been in enough rooms with enough real people to have had to solve it yet. And that's okay. But you have to understand that maybe they need a little bit more support, and they need to be cultivated more, nurtured more, right? But this is someone that is willing to learn. This may be someone new, or again, they may have been around a little bit, but maybe they're willing to learn. But again, we're not just looking for someone breathing, okay? We are looking for quality. And if that quality is not in any way visible, then them being able to breathe and show up is not going to do you, your members, or your boutique any good at all. And it's actually not going to do them any good, that instructor, because you are setting them up for failure. Another thing people don't do is they don't check references. And I understand that because a lot of times I'll tell you this when we're talking about culture, particularly, or where they're coming from, you also have to understand the quality of the place that they may be coming from. Somewhere else, what they were doing might have been outstanding in the facility that they were working for. But if your standards are different, then you hearing that they are outstanding versus when they are in front of you and you're looking at that and you're like, no, that's not going to work here. Hey, that works over there. Great. What works for someone else may not work for you. Do not try to put the square in the round opening. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So ask, get those references if you can. More or less, you're just asking if there was a problem. You are the one that needs to assess their talent. You can ask if they had a big class. Did they show up, timely, follow the rules? You know how to do this legally, ethically, right? You know what questions to ask, right? You want to make sure that they had their credentials. Maybe ask them what were the formats that they taught. Did they volunteer to substitute or things like that? That's also them, learning. Did they attend other classes? You should also ask the person that they came from, if you're asking for references, what did they require of their instructors, right? A lot of this onus we're putting on the instructor, maybe we need to put it on those facilities that we are trying to hire from or poach from too, right? So again, it's everyone that should be involved in this, but this is your studio. So, of course, you are going to make sure that you are diligent in your selections and clear about what would benefit your studio, your members, your community. Another thing that a lot of times I talk to studio owners, they don't think about, but people are used to this actually. Probationary periods. Have to be honest about probationary periods. Some instructors look very different in an audition than they do over time, and that goes for both directions. Sometimes they look amazing, and then they come teach for you and like, what was I on when I hired this person? Or sometimes you look at that audition and you're like, what is going on? What just happened? And then they become your best instructor. I got a story for you about my auditioning for my first position, and I decided I was going to audition in step and cycle. And I love cycle. I did great, but I really thought I was about to kill it in step. I had my little routine going. I was ready for that audition. Thought I did bad in cycle, but just knew I did amazing in step, right? Why did the studio director say, thank God you auditioned in cycle because your step audition was god awful horrible? I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I didn't say that, but now looking back, and you have yet to see me teach a step class since then, so I get it. And cycle is my thing. Killing the game in cycle. Yes. So luckily, they had the experience to see my potential. And also, for that example, I auditioned in those two formats. Those were the two they were asking for, even though I knew more. But again, going back to can't be a one trick pony because you might not be that good in the one trick that you got, because I was not great in step. But going back to that's just an example of what could happen, truly bad in audition. All right. So I will definitely still say to this day, I was not that best, I think, in cycle at all, but got it right away once I got in front of a group. And also, I went to other classes. I kept trying to learn more. I went to certifications. So that's what I'm saying. When you're looking to hire, also see what the instructor has been doing to learn more. You're not going to know everything day one. They're just not. You are going to have to do some work to cultivate the instructor. Seasonal ones too, because your studio has a different culture than where they might have been coming from, right? So your studio may do things a different way, and you're just going to have to, talk to them about how things go at your studio so that whatever they may have been doing for years may not work. But if they're able to adjust, their amazingness, of course, is going to come out in the new environment that you have for them. All right. Got a little off there. So, what was I talking about? Oh, probationary periods. Thank goodness for notes over here. All right. So, again, you're going to give that new hire, that new instructor, a real runway with real observation and real feedback, and be willing to have a direct conversation if what you hoped for and what you're getting are not the same thing. It happens, it happens, it happens. Protecting your studio floor is not unkind. Leaving a bad fit in place because the conversation is uncomfortable, that is. Again, what happens there? You've set the instructor up for failure, right? Because they're just not going to do well in your studio. So now there's bad feelings, or they're going to lose a job when maybe they could have been hired easily, more quickly at some other place that what they do, their personality, whatever, would be a better fit. And you've wasted your time, your money, your members' time, their experience on keeping an instructor that just isn't a good fit. Many times the benefit is to just let go, and that's a benefit to you as well as that instructor. So what I want you to remember is this: your studio's reputation is built in the room. Every class is a promise you make to your members about what they can expect from the experience you've created. The instructor standing at the front of the room is either keeping that promise or they are quietly eroding it. So you need to hire accordingly. Evaluate regularly, and set the standard clearly from the beginning. Success for your studio, success for that instructor. All right, we're going to talk about protecting what you've built, okay? The boutique fitness industry is in a generally complicated position right now, right? The pipeline that used to feed it is narrowed. So you need to protect what you've built. The big box chains that once produced versatile instructors as a byproduct of their volume model have deprioritized that development in favor of covering class schedules at the lowest possible costs, right? Now, this is what I want you to hear. Those same chains are now looking at boutique talent as a resource to acquire rather than develop. There's also something worth saying to the studio owners hearing this and nodding along while quietly knowing they've let the standards slide because the hiring pool is generally thin. You're not imagining it. The pool has shifted, but thin does not mean empty. And lowering your standard to fill a slot cost you more in member churn and community dilution than the cost of holding out for the right person. And that's what I want you to get from this. A class on the schedule with a mediocre instructor is not better than a class on the schedule with a guest or substitute while you keep looking, especially if that guest or substitute is outstanding, who is an example of the culture and the extraordinary experience that your studio is known for. Your members will forgive a gap on the calendar. What they will not forgive is a bad experience in your studio. Because remember, you don't have the thousands and thousands of classes that go through each day, more than likely, right? That someone's like, okay, if I don't go to this person, I can go to something else, right? The big boxes that have multiple locations that they're like, okay, I won't go to that location, I'll go to the other location. You don't necessarily have that luxury. So again, those members will not forgive what a bad experience in your studio does to their perception of the whole thing. Another thing I want you to think about, because remember, those big boxes are poaching from you now, right? So not only is your job to find and cultivate these amazing instructors, these now rare quality instructors, but you need to retain them. The research is consistent that boutique instructors who leave for that big box environment, they overwhelmingly trade depth for volume. Okay, they're looking for more classes, more money, more exposure sometimes. And most who care about what they do, don't worry about it. They recognize the difference relatively quickly. Your best instructors are not likely to stay gone, but better than getting them back is keeping them in the first place. That means investing in their continuing education, giving them creative ownership of their programming, acknowledging them publicly as the reason your members show up, and being honest about what your studio's community means for their long-term career in this work. The free gym membership and extra class slots at that big box, they are not a match for that. They cannot be. So again, the standard you hold is the brand you build. 20 plus years in this work, I can tell you that the instructors who stay in this industry, who build real communities, who have those people come back when they see them, who tell their friends, you haven't seen anything until you've gone to that class. Those are the ones who never stopped taking the work seriously. So you find those people. They exist. You hold out for those instructors. They aren't a rarity if it's something that you cultivate and you celebrate. Just know that when you get them, again, you hold out for them. And once you have them, make it obvious why staying with you is the right choice. All right. As always, wishing you optimal success. Hopefully this has been helpful in your journey to create an extraordinary experience for not only your members, but for your instructors, yourself, and of course, your communities. Okay, bold and brilliant visionaries, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I truly appreciate you. If today's conversation resonated, share it with another studio leader who needs this kind of clarity and support. Remember, the best studios are built by leaders who honor both their vision and their well-being. Make sure you follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you want deeper tools for leadership and culture, find me in the Fit Powerfully Studio Collective. Until next time, lead well, take care of yourself, and stay powerful. We'll chat soon.